Summer's end is the perfect time to get outside, pick some wildflowers, and do some nature sketching. So that's exactly what we're going to do today in our second botanical illustration tutorial. Hey guys, welcome back. My name's Shayda Campbell. So part 2 of our botanical illustration. It's a gorgeous evening, end of summer evening here in Prince Edward Island. We are going to pick some wildflowers and sketch them. Before we get started, I want to mention that our video today is sponsored by the Art Institutes. The Art Institutes prepares students for creative careers and features programs in key areas such as media arts, culinary, interior design, gaming and virtual reality technology, and fashion. I know many of you watching are creatives and dreamers, and at the Art Institutes you can explore your creativity. This is somewhere that you can take your vision farther than you've ever dreamed possible. They have locations across the US and many offerings online. Visit the Art Institute online and check out their programs at artinstitutes.edu/programs. I'm starting my little project today by simply collecting some specimens. I picked some beautiful yarrow and Queen Anne's lace. I brought them home and then I just started by looking at them, really looking at the flowers. How are they formed? What does the tiniest petal look like? What does the leaf look like and the stem? So here I'm using my dot grid paper notebook from Bear and Fig, using it as a journal and a sketchbook these days. And I've just written yarrow in the top corner here. And I'm just starting by sketching or drawing the actual tiny little flower, that itty bitty little bud with its funny, very round, almost like moon-like stamen. And then I'm gonna sketch the leaves. The yarrow weed or flower has these funny little frond or fern-like leaves. So I'm just really looking at them and trying to capture some of their movement, their shape, those tiny little tendrils. And so you can see I'm not really sketching the entirety of the plant, not to begin with anyway. And this is a great way to break down your nature sketching or your botanical sketching. Start with just the blossom and then just the leaf and then maybe a tiny portion of the flower. Now I'm just kind of doing one little bit of the upper part of the yarrow before I attempt to draw the entire flower. And looking at all those details, really looking and then attempting to sketch them one by one can help you as you work up towards sketching the entire flower, or weed as it may be. Then, having studied and sketched out a few of those key details, I'm feeling a little more confident as we go into the sketch of the entire flower. Here I've started very quickly in pencil and now I'm going over it in pen so that you guys can see, but I'm not trying to get it perfect. I just want a little journal sketch, just a little documentation from my notebook of what I was seeing at this time of year. It's beautiful September in Prince Edward Island, and there are so many gorgeous wildflowers in bloom right now. Actually, that's something about living on Prince Edward Island, is that there are always many flowers in bloom. Getting back to my sketch, I'm not being too picky about drawing every single little bloom on top of the yarrow flower here. Yes, I'm doing some petals and stamens, but I'm also just doing some curly, squiggly, scribbly lines to indicate the look of the bloom, the ephemeral bloom on the top of the plant there. And I'm just trying to capture the look of the flower without worrying too much about every little detail. Next, I want to do a sketch of the Queen Anne's lace, and it's sort of this funny, spindly, spidery flower. So I'm going to do it in much the same manner, just write the name of the flower here and do a little nature sketch, documenting some of the details and just trying to get it onto the page, not quickly, not rushing, but also not spending all day. So I'm starting by looking at the leaves of the Queen Anne's lace, and they're kind of spidery too. They have these long tendrils and they're very, very thin and wispy. So I want to sort of capture those. And when you're drawing these leaves and drawing these plants from life, it will give you so many ideas as well for the next time you go to draw a wreath. You're going to have more ideas for leaf shapes after having done some nature sketches. At least that's what I've found. With the leaves on the page, I'm going to turn my attention to the little buds and flowers that the Queen Anne's lace has. It's almost like the shape of a chandelier, the lines of a chandelier or a candelabra. It's this very funny flower and very dependent on these curved, crazy lines. Everything's about it is just perfect for doing this scribbly line sketch. And once I get that candelabra sort of shape on the page, again for the flowers or the bloom at the top, I'm just doing this little scribbly area, and I think that gives that look of the flower, a little bit of stippling, a little bit of line shading, and you can really capture the look of the plant. Here I'm just trying to do that tiny little bud, so I'm just looking at it and looking back at my drawing, going back and forth a little bit. And once I've got all those details sketched out, I'll try to draw a larger flower on the left-hand side of the page here. And again, I feel more confident having studied a few of the details, and I'm doing a bit of stippling and scribbling in a larger area here so you can see how I'm in a way just attempting to capture the delicate nature of a flower by not overdrawing it and just trying to keep this very loose and sketchy and summery and fun. To finish up, I'll add a little bit of extra line shading there along one side of each stem just to give the flower a little bit of extra depth and help it to sort of pop off the page. A few extra little spindly leaves or additional leaves, and that's about it for my Queen Anne's Lace nature sketch. Now what I want to do is flip the page, get a fresh page started here, and I want to do some fun, really free sketching. I've got the idea of what these flowers look like. I'm going to start with the Queen Anne's Lace, and I'm just going to let myself go a little bit and just sketch and do some line drawing. And I really feel that there's this sort of movement in each flower, and if you just let your hand sort of fly across the page as you're drawing the stems and the leaves and scribbling out the blossom, it's just such a fun way to draw, and just allow yourself the freedom to scribble out these floral shapes. It's a lot of fun, and especially if you've done a bit of a more refined sketch prior, then you're gonna already sort of have in your head the idea of which way these lines should move. And I just love the shape of the Queen Anne's Lace bud, the linear nature of this flower, the way the bud closes in on itself anytime it rains. And here I'm using a bit of watercolor splashy, messy painting that I did, and I'm just taking my pen and drawing these very loose, scribbly florals on top of the watercolor. And it's just a little experiment and just another type of floral sketching that I felt inspired to do. All right, now I'm going to try a similar thing with the yarrow. This doesn't come as naturally to me, doing this free, wild sketching, the Queen Anne's Lace. As I said, it's so linear, it lends itself to that, at least from my perspective. But I wanted to give it a try, and so I'm doing this sort of very close-up drawing of the yarrow. I'm making those funny little blooms very large with the moon-like stamen, the stamen with the big sort of funny craters. There's such an interesting flower when you look at the yarrow really close up. So that's what I'm doing, getting really close and just doing a very loose close-up drawing of the bloom and the leaves and some of the other details. But just, again, trying my best to keep it loose and free and just kind of scribble and hope that somewhere in my scribbles and messy lines that I'm able to capture a little part of the ephemeral and delicate beauty of the flower, the wildflower. Well, that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you'll get outside and pick some flowers and then get inside and do some messy sketching of them. Okay, I will see you next week with a new video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And thanks again to the Art Institutes for sponsoring today's video. Check out the Art Institute's many program offerings at artinstitutes.edu/programs.